Wow. Um, just appreciating this for a moment here. Let me start off by saying, Secretary Higginbottom, eminent tribal leaders, family, friends, State Department colleagues, others from Indian country, so many folks from the extraordinary NGO community, diplomats representing other nations. Thank you for honoring us with your presence here today. I want to first thank Deputy Secretary Higginbottom. As she mentioned, we worked closely together for many years, first in the '07 campaign, then in her extraordinary leadership, inspirational and effective leadership at both the Domestic Policy Council and then with the OMB. We've all of us who know you and have worked with you know what kind of extraordinary commitment you've had to this president and this nation, and this is an opportunity for me to thank you. For those from Indian country, you should know that much of what we've been able to achieve during this administration is due to people, including Heather, and she mentioned Pete Rouse. And there's been a lot of progress made, but that comes with people making a commitment, and thank you for that as well. This type of an event, really more than anything else, is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to show gratitude. Whenever I think we do something of this nature, there are a lot of people that we have to thank. Certainly I have a lot of folks to thank as well. I'm going to start with thanking the President, President Obama, and Secretary Kerry for their confidence in me in discharging this important job. Their trust is humbling indeed. I'd like to also, of course, thank my wife Shelby. I normally refer to her as my better three-quarters. I've been 3 weeks in Geneva while she packed out our house, so it's maybe better 4/5 or something at this point. I recognize that the things that are achievable are joint achievements, and they're only achievable with her love and unending support, so I thank you. I have a couple of our kids here today, Arlo, Elsa, and Mila, who you all have met. And Naila, who's here with us in spirit. She's studying abroad this summer. When I think about human rights, I really think about the human part of human rights. And when I think about human, I think about my children. I think about what kind of world I want to leave them, what kind of world they should inherit. I want them to live in a world where there's greater free expression and greater freedom of assembly, a world where there are less atrocities. And that's the world I live in, and so they are my inspiration. I want to thank a lot of folks who came here from a lot of different places, Chicago and Arizona and New York, and much family from San Francisco and the Bay Area. My folks, Doreen and stepfather David McKissick, my brothers Ken, Kirk, Tricia, and Dawn, who are here with us today. My in-laws, Paula and Carl Robinson. I really appreciate all your support over the years, and your presence here today is very meaningful. I want to thank all the families who make this extraordinary journey. I know there's a lot of folks from Indian country here today, and I'm very grateful for their support. There was more than 130 tribes that took and penned letters in support of my nomination, and I am so deeply grateful for your support throughout the process, a longer process than I had hoped, but one that I think I got through in a shorter way because of your support. I've been honored to represent tribes the last 2 decades. Together we've worked hard, and I think we've made a lot of progress. And Indian country is better off today because of the work that we've done together. And I deeply respect so many of those tribal leaders that go in, day out, and try to do the best that they can do for Indian country. I will take those lessons that I've learned from you and bring them to the United Nations, where we hope to ensure greater respect for human rights around the world for all peoples, including indigenous peoples. There are many folks in Indian country I need to thank, but there's 3 tribes in particular: the Agua Caliente Band, the Stillaguamish tribe, and the Akshan Indian community that went above and beyond the call of duty. Some individuals, Ryan Ramirez, Jossie Ross, and Puyallup Councilman Extraordinaire David Bean, thank you all for your support. To my former colleagues, a number of whom I see here today from Kilpatrick Townsend. Wow. We spent many years together representing tribes and our other clients. There will be times that I will always cherish. It's a time when our collaborations were meaningful to our clients, our tribal clients, and others. And I thank you for being part of you and your extraordinary support throughout this process. Many people were helpful, but particularly Charlie Galbraith, John Loving, Rob Harmala, and Bill Doris. I want to publicly acknowledge those many people who worked on my nomination here at the State Department and at Presidential Personnel. Of course, the incomparable Jen Wicks. Thank you so much, Jen. Wilbur Velarde, who's kept all the important stuff straight, like getting schools chosen and all that kind of stuff for the kids. Rob Fallon and his team at H. At the White House, folks like Jody Gillette and Raina Thiel, and on the Hill, Mary Pavel, Adam Weiland, Ariana Rex, and Charlotte Odom Moore. Senators like John Tester and Barbara Boxer. So many folks to name, and because so many folks have helped me along the path. One person who's not here today, but who deserves his own category of thank you, is Pete Rouse. I think all of us who have worked with Pete really appreciate his leadership. But when the history books are written, it'll be the fact that this administration is the most pro-tribal administration in American history. This will be the administration in which the trajectory for Indian country took off in a far different direction. And certainly that's due in part to a president with extraordinary leadership, but it's also due to Pete Rouse. Every day he worked hard to ensure that tribes were included. Quietly, unassuming, never wanting credit or thanks, but he was always there, and we owe him a lot. And I owe him a lot personally for allowing me to contribute and always having faith in me. Two people that are not here today that I need to mention are Eloise Cobell and Billy Frank Jr. They passed on, they walked on the battles. I was honored to serve as the lawyer for both of them. And their fight will always inspire me. Along with people like Hank Adams Jr., Suzanne Harjo, Vine Deloria, Joe Delacruz, and I see Kevin Gover, Director of the National Museum of American Indian. We know that we stand on their shoulders. And what we can do in Indian country today is based on what they did in days before. To my colleagues at the State Department, I look forward to continuing our collaboration. Let me make an observation. Too often, there's an unfortunate nature to our public discourse. Too often, we hear sneers of Washington bureaucrats. I wish every American could know and see what I've seen in this building and in Geneva. What I've seen is people with extraordinary leadership, people with vision, people that are patriots, people that are dedicated and tireless in their work, absurdly knowledgeable and greatly skilled. And what do? They keep this nation safe and prosperous while moving the world towards democracy and greater justice. I'm honored to be your colleague. To the NGOs who are in this room and others who I will be working with, many of you I've worked with over the years on civil rights and human rights issues. I look forward to continuing our collaboration. I know the critical role you play, and what I am going to commit to you is that I will never forget that is an important role, and that collaboration is key to our joint success. To my predecessor, Eileen Donahoe, who wasn't able to make it here today, I should say this. I'm not sure thank you is the correct word, because she has set the bar so very, very high that I'm not sure I can meet it. But what I can say is that she demonstrated through hard work just what the Human Rights Council could do and what it could be. And I look forward to continuing on that legacy. As many of you know, as Heather mentioned, I just returned from HRC 26, Human Rights Council. I'm already getting into the State Department acronyms, excuse me. Human Rights Council Session 26. And a couple of observations from that. First, the need for American leadership is palpable when you're there. We are often the only ones who can act or are willing to act. On issue after issue, words cannot truly describe the importance of our role. Certainly, we work closely with partners, but our leadership is essential. Second, our work matters. When you make a statement at the Human Rights Council about another country's conduct, properly criticized for breach of human rights violations, they get pretty upset. I had an ambassador from one country, I won't name him, but he chased me down the hall to complain about our statement against him, criticizing them for the lack of due process. They criticize us, they challenge us because it matters. It matters in opening up spaces in places that don't have transparency. It matters because it shines a light on places where women are denied basic, fundamental freedoms. And so this is the important work that we engage in, and you see it more palpably than ever when you're in a place like Geneva. The fact is, when we call for freedom of expression or freedom of assembly, that is an existential threat to dictators and tyrants everywhere. Their rule is based not on consent, but on force. When we call for gender equality and ending child and forced marriage, that shines a light on societies that fail to treat women and girls with dignity and equity. When we push for non-discrimination of LGBT persons, it offers hope in countries where their very existence is criminalized. Our calls for change make a difference. To be clear, we are cognizant of the challenges ahead because we are an existential threat to undemocratic and repressive forces. They will fight us. We also know that the Council has an anti-Israel bias. No nation is free from scrutiny, but no nation should face bias and inequity. Also, there are members of the Council who themselves have poor human rights records. Because of these challenges, the answer is not to disengage. These are the reasons to engage. We engage with the sober understanding that there are difficulties. We are prepared to take on these challenges head on. We will not win every battle, but we will win more than we lose, and the world will be better for it. American leadership is an essential ingredient to a safer and more prosperous world where human rights are more widely respected. To the people in this room, I look forward to facing these challenges with you. In the end, our task is a simple one. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." Our task is to ensure that the arc is a little shorter and bends towards justice a little more. Thank you for sharing this day with us.